Blessed day, guys, and peace be upon you this morning. So in this video, we're going to learn how to configure access control list to secure the VTY interface. So remember, it's the VTY interface that we use to remotely access networking device. So we're going to use access control list to create the policy of restricting or allowing specific traffic. So we're going to use access control list to restrict the access to the networking devices, right? Okay, so when I open Google spreadsheet, I'll let you know that today is number 12, ACL for VTY, remote access on the router. Okay, all right, so I'll open our Google Notepad again to let the steps that we're going to follow to achieve this objective. So the first step is always to draw the necessary topology, decorate and comment. So when you see this topology here, I have a router here that we want to remotely access. Okay, we want to remotely access this router here. Okay, all right, so I'll just write here that is remotely accessed. All right, so we don't want every device in the network to access this router. That's why we need to restrict the access to that router, right? Okay, so just make sure that you're using 2911 router and 2960 switches. And although we have one LAN here, this is just one LAN under one network, okay? And we have two computers under IT department, two computers under HR. Okay, all right. So when I go back on the notepad, the second step is to configure IP addresses to the router and the host. So I've already done that. So this is gig 01. So gig 01, I've configured. You can see gig 01. It's 192.168.10.1. Okay, and it will act as the default gateway of all these computers. Okay, so for the computers, you can see I have labeled IP addresses on the comment section. You can see here, right? Okay, so that's done. So the second step, configure remote access on the router and test SSH from both the any of the departments. Okay, so we need to configure remote access here. So to configure remote access, I want to configure SSH actually. So we just exit. The first step to configure SSH is always to you configure the host name of that device first. Okay. All right. So host name, just say host name. Host name, let's say R1. Okay. Then after configuring host name, you need to specify the domain name. Okay. For example, let's say you just say IP domain name to configure SSH. IP domain name to be let's say gtech.com and do it enter. Okay, make sure you configure hostname, then domain name. After domain name, create username and password. Remember, we're going to access the router using the username and password. Just say username, let's say Cisco, and password of also Cisco. Okay, all right. After specifying the hostname, the domain name and the username and password, now you can start generating crypto keys. So just say crypto key generated RSA. Okay, then you hit enter. Then it will ask you how many bits. Just say 1024. Okay, and you hit enter. Now you can see SSH is enabled. Okay, all right. So when you go down, we've configured remote access using SSH. So SSH has been enabled here. So it's the time that we put SSH to the VTY interface. We put we put the SSH configuration on the VTY interface so that anyone who tries to access VTY interface can either use SSH or telnet. So we just say line VTY 0 to 15 or 0 to 4 is whichever, 0 to 15. Then you just say login login local to use the local database. What I mean is that it will use username and password here, the local database. Okay, then transport input. Let's query transport input all none SSH or telnet. In this case, I want to use SSH. Just say SSH, hit enter and exit and do right. So guys, we are done with the third step and we're being told to configure remote access and test. All right, so we're going to test if we can remotely access this router from either of the departments. Okay, let's try from this department. Come to CMD, just say then SSH -L, that's letter L, then the username was Cisco and the IP address of the router, which IP address of the router is 192.168.10.1. okay, all right, so we just say 192.168.10.1 and we hit enter. You can see we're being asked password. The password was also Cisco, and we have successfully logged in the route. Okay, although we forgot to configure enable password. So if you can just go here very fast and we configure enable password to be Cisco also. All right, so when we come back here and we say enable, now we get password in Cisco and now we are in router 1. Okay, so let's try from HR department. Do the same for HR department. We just say SSH sorry, so we just say SSH -L, then we give the username of Cisco and IP address 192.168.10.1. okay, the password is Cisco. Now we are in router 1, Cisco still. All right, so we have successfully accessed the router remotely from IT and HR department. So guys, we want a situation whereby we only remotely access the router from the two guys. These guys are not responsible for configuration. It's only these two guys. Okay, so that's why we need to implement access control list on the VTY interface. So it's very simple. We just create a simple standard access control list. And how do we do that? We just say access list let's say 20 permit, then we query. We just need a specific host. We just say host permit host 192.168.10.10. then the query, there's nothing, we just hit enter. Another host that we want to permit is .20. okay, then now we just change this to .20. right, then access list 20 deny any. okay, because we only want to permit the two guys and denying any other IP. All right, so we have successfully configured access control list. okay, so let's bind them to the VTY interface. So bind them to the VTY interface so that we can test SSH again. All right, so we just say line VTY 0 to 15. okay, then we say IP access class 20, the one that we created. okay, then we say in IP let me query, sorry, just say access class 20. okay, then we say in, we omit IP access. We just say access class 20, then we say in and we hit enter, exit and do right. So you can just say do show start, do show start. You can see these are access control list policies that we created. okay, and you can see very well that it has been applied on the VTY interface. I mean access class 20 in, access class 20 in. So let's go back to this router that we tried to SSH again, and we just say exit. All right, so if I can just do it again, and we just say yes, I can just Cisco enable Cisco, right, from ITPC2. We can try that on HRPC and exit. This was HR. The first time it was all successful. So let's do it again. Remote connection refused by remote host. It will never work because we have configured access controllers to protect the device from remote access. So guys, basically it's very simple. The one that I've said, create the policies and apply them to the VTY interface, and through that we've successfully achieved access controllers for VTY access configuration. So when we meet next, guys, we're going to start on NAT, doing static, dynamic, and part. So thank you so much, guys. Please subscribe to this channel, like this video, share with friends, and let me know whether you have a comment or doubt below. Bye, and see you again in the next class.